So good having coffee this afternoon. My name is Diane Shadro Korihana. And this afternoon I am glad to be here to give you a little bit about who is Diane. I was almost 7 years old, 6.5 going on to 7. When we came to Canada, I didn't understand or know the language, English or anything at all. We arrived here and this was going to be our new home. As I was 8 years old, I remember this, I was about 8, I would say, is the time that I went knocking on the door of my good friend. She lived about 3 doors down from us on Halifax on Allen Street. So around 5, we were still out and playing, and I went to call on my friend, wanting her to come out and play. And her mother comes to the door and she says, "Oh, it's supper time, she can't come out." And so I was, okay, I'll go in then, thinking that that's how things were done at my house. We're having supper, come on in. Have a plate. Would you like something to eat? Can I get you something? So I thought that's what was it. So as I was lifting my foot to go into the door, she says, "You'll have to wait out here until we're done supper." So I stood there wondering why I wasn't allowed in the house. That was just so unfamiliar. That's one of the things, that was different. I couldn't understand why. And especially growing up being Lebanese, where people didn't even know where Lebanon was. They thought I lived somewhere, came from some desert somewhere. So that persona of you're an Arab, you're a nomad, you're something. People didn't know anything at all about the Middle East, only approximately where it was. When you went to school, you didn't tell people you were Lebanese. You didn't tell people, I eat this, or your mom makes you a weird looking sandwich and this thin bread, We just hid all that. Hid that from our friends, from our schoolmates, from our teachers. We didn't let anybody know what we ate, who we were. We were just so strange to them. And that was hard growing up. But being Lebanese, we were strong people. Our ancestors traveled the world. And that's where my parents, I think, and many Lebanese get their strength from, is that they're in a foreign country. They have to fit in. So they change. Back then you changed for them. They didn't change for you. And that's how you fit in. Well, how are you today? I'm in my kitchen. As you can see, I'm making tabouleh and kafta. Those are 2 traditional Lebanese, Middle Eastern dishes that I grew up with. I love to cook. I just want to tell you something. Everybody loves food. And I think food is the soul of the person. Why I love food is that when I sat down, for the very first time in my whole life, I must have been about maybe 8 or 10, and I saw somebody eating, and they just went, "Oh, this is so good. It makes me feel good. Oh, I can't get enough." And a big smile on their face, and I said, yes, this is what food is all about. It's not just what you're eating, but just good food and family and friends. This is parsley. Italian parsley is what we love the best. And you have to bunch it up like this in order to make it for your tabouleh, and you cut it, watch your fingers, just fine like this, like little squares. And then you add, of course, your onion. Everything's just chopped up, so I hope you all have a good sharp knife to chop everything fine. And then once you chop all these things, you put them in a bowl. I'm just gonna show you, because I already did it here. and you put it all together. And then, you know, olive oil typically. You put olive oil, salt and pepper, and that's it. And then you mix it up, and lemon juice, of course. All right, so now I'm gonna move on. And this is lean ground lamb. This is usually typically what kafta is made of. And you can put beef and lamb or just beef, whatever. And this is how it's done. Kafta requires a few things. I'll just tell you. First of all, you need a nice, just one of these large onions. As you can see, I've got a mess here, but that's okay, because that's what it's all about. Just continue working. We can clean up later. That's my motto. We take our onion, and you have to really dice it small. Now, people do this in their food processor, but I'm going to do it by hand today. And it's just dicing it very small. Probably making a lot of noise. See, just barely there. You need a whole onion for this. There we go. And then you take your parsley. Parsley too is a big thing with us Middle Eastern people. We just love our parsley. I'm chopping it also fine. And we'll stick it right in there. Then we need some mint. A little bit of mint over here. Oh, everybody has mint and grape leaves in their gardens. Every time, you know, when we first came to Canada, my parents, of course, you know, starting out new, so the neighbors of the Lebanese community would get together and bring sprigs of mint to plant. And they'd, you know, somebody, the oldest person that's in the Lebanese community would come and plant your wada arish, or your vines for your grape leaves. So, you know, all these things are now not as much emphasis on it, because everybody now buys their things in jars and somebody can make it for them, or, you know. And now that I've done the chopping, got your onion, you got your mint, you got your parsley. Now we just put some spices in here. I love to put some allspice, and that wouldn't be very good with us. And here's some black pepper. I'm eyeing it. It's usually about a half a teaspoon of each, and some cayenne. It needs some heat. We love a bit of heat in the food. And 7 spices. The 7 spices is a Lebanese 7 spice. It has 7 wonderful spices that we use. We want 2 big generous pinches in there. And we need some salt. And a little bit of, I already put black pepper, so we're all set here to do this. I've had a couple of restaurants and I love them. I can tell you so many stories, you know, with customers and with making food and feeding people. I think that's what I was born for. I always thought, why do I love it so much? I think a person sometimes has this love of something so well, and they do it well. And once you do it well, you love it. It's easy. This is the kafta that we're making today. So, and this is why I mean you have to knead it by hand. And, oh, I can smell those spices. They smell wonderful. Like these right here. You also form it like this. And you just stick your wooden skewer or your metal skewer and you form it around. And it tastes wonderful grilled. This is what kafta is all about. It's about grilling the kafta. And that's how you make kafta. It is a wonderfully superb dish. The disease is called ankylosing spondylitis. And I guess I was probably about 17, 18 years old when I started getting sick and didn't know what was wrong with me, you know, swollen joints. And then I had a Crohn's as well. And it was really a hard time in the 70s, being here in Halifax and, going to the specialist and not knowing what was wrong and what kind of medication. Anyway, so after that, I was just in and out of hospital for many years. The doctor said I couldn't have children. And when I got pregnant for Linda, it was wonderful. And she was my firstborn. She was born in 1980 in April. And that was great. And then the doctor said, you're lucky you have one child, because I want to have another one. And 5 years later, I got pregnant with Stephen. And he was born in June of 1985. And, you know, that was wonderful. And then Charles, a year and a half later, came Charles. And when I got pregnant for Charles, I said, no way, you know, that I was pregnant. There was something else wrong with me. And it turned out that I was. And that was just unbelievable to have the 3 children with Crohn's going on and all the medication. And thank God they were born healthy. But after I had all of my children, right after I had them, I got sick with my Crohn's, and I was in and out of hospital. The funny thing when people used to see me is that they would look at me funny because I was bent over. My spine had fused. I mean, there's many stories I could tell you, the specialists that I went to see. I even went to the university, and all the students wanted to have a look at my spine because it was very unusual. I went to the States, had my surgery at the back clinic in Minnesota. It was a 12-hour surgery, and they had to go into my interior, release my spine from here, from you know, right under my breastbone here, and then turn me over, take out all my spine, break it up, you know, and graft it, and then put it back in. It was, my husband had to sleep on a chair until I fell asleep because it was too painful for him to be in the same bed with me. Any kind of movement, my bones would ache and it would be like jar, you know, real hard pain. Anyway, and then right after that, he died. I'm laughing now, but it was a huge tragedy for me. He died suddenly in '96 when I was just getting better and trying to carry on with my life. My husband died suddenly. He was on his way home, and he had a massive aneurysm, and he died still, his hands on the steering wheel of the car. And he said to me that morning, get ready, we have a 10 o'clock appointment to go see the kid's teacher. And I said, yeah, and I got up in the morning and we had coffee, just like a normal day. And he left, and he said, I'll be back. And I got up. After we had our coffee, I got up and I said, you know what, I better get some fish on because, you know, he's watching his weight. Like a typical day, you know, you don't know what things happen in a day. When they told me that, you know, they don't tell you right away. Like my neighbor came over because she got a phone call, and she said to me, he's in a car accident. She didn't tell me that, you know, he was gone. And I was running to go to the hospital, and they still wouldn't tell me. The tragic part was it didn't happen here in Canada, it happened in Lebanon. And myself being, you know, here all my life in Canada, being in Lebanon, when something like this happens to you, you don't know what's going on. And finally, after I yelling and screaming, I wanted to see him because I couldn't believe that my husband could have died. This man was bigger than life, extremely handsome, great driver. I said I couldn't believe it. And they kept saying, well, he's in surgery or he's in intensive care. And then finally, I said to them, he's dead, isn't he? And there was silence in the room, and this is when I found out my husband was gone. The most tragic thing was that it was Charles's birthday. And Charles was preparing to have a birthday party that day. Because the year previously, my uncle had died that month, and we didn't give him a party. And so he said to me, Mom, this year I'm having a party. Nobody's going to die on my birthday. And the night before, he was setting up balloons in the room. And I said, they're not going to stay up. He says, yep, I got to decorate because I'm going to make sure I have a party tomorrow when my friends come over. And unfortunately, the worst tragedy happened, and we didn't have a party. I was just crying and screaming. That's all I knew. I couldn't even wear my glasses. I wore glasses all my life. And at that time, I couldn't wear glasses because I thought I was in a dream and a nightmare, that I was going to wake up any time now and things were going to go back to normal, that I'm going to wake up and my husband's going to be there. There's nothing there, no support. My family was here in Canada. I only had my in-laws and my children. But I thought that pain I could deal with after 25 years. But the worst part was, a year and a half ago, when my daughter Linda died suddenly. That was, sorry. That was just nothing, because she was everything to me. She was everything when her dad died. She's the one that picked me up. She's the one that I called. She's the one that she was the strength that I didn't have. And losing her like that, she just died the same way her dad did. You think, one tragedy in your life like that, losing a husband, and I loved my husband. Losing him was painful enough, but then, losing your oldest child, she was only 40. She just had turned 40. You think, no, it was pain. Still till today, I don't think I really come to terms that she's gone. She's just still away, living her life. So anyway, and that's it. That's, now I'm here with my two boys. I have one in Toronto. That's wonderful Charles, the baby. And my son Stephen. Stephen is engaged to a wonderful girl named Carolyn. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for them both. I think that's the only thing that keeps me going, is seeing them all the time and them being close to me. Something about me, even though you just heard a bit about my life, I love to laugh. I love a good joke. I have a good sense of humor, I think. People tell me that because my mother was the same way. My mother was a very funny woman. She could say anything or do anything and it just make people laugh. I could be telling you a story and it's a complete lie, but you think it would be true because I'd make it sound like so reality. But then sometimes I could be telling you the truth and it sounds like a lie. It's wonderful to be able to make people laugh, and to play little jokes on people and do things and all the, with a sense of humor. I think that's what makes life a little fun. People love to laugh, and I found that to be the best medication. I love making people laugh, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful.